Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning everybody. We are from group 2. We will explain about understanding and type language style. Before we begin, let me introduce my group. My name is Sela Kamalinda as the moderate and material and my partner Dea Ayu as the material. We will explain about what the definition about language style, diction, imagery, connotation and denunciation, structure of language, rhythm, syntax, and figure of speech. Okay, the first will be explained by me. I will explain about what the definition about language style. Language style is defined as the choice of the words used by a specific group of people when they speak. And according to Mysikova, language style is the way of speech which is formed by means of conscious and intentional selection, systematic patterning, and implementation of linguistic. Okay, according Martin Jo's claim, there are 5 kinds of language style. Number 1 is prosent, formal, consultative, casual, and in might. And number 1, frozen style. Frozen style is a style which used in a very formal situation. Example, in a palace, church, speech in ceremony, and some other occasion. And number 2, formal. Formal style is generally used in formal situation and where there the list of amount. However, it's used in speaking in single hearer. Example, between a stranger. And number 3, consultative. Consultative is generally employed in a semi-formal communication situation. And while one speaking in the intervals, the other gives short comment. Short comment. Example, yes, no, that's right, and yes I see or yes I know, like that. And number 4, casual style is used among friends, coworkers, or between in informal situation. And 5, the last is intimate style, is completely private language developed families, lover, and close friends. And number 2, I will explain about definition of diction. Diction is writer purposeful as the choice of the words. And the types diction in literature. Number 1, the types in diction in literature you employ will vary depending with the audience and occasion. And number 2, the speaker or reader will be aware on the situation. And commons the types diction in literature. Number 1, formal. Number 2, casual. And number 3, slang. Formal diction is appropriate when the speaker want to convey a message and keep the situation impersonal. And number 2, casual diction is the appropriate when writing literature and speaking with friends. And number 3, slang dictions will vary depending on the setting and context. And next, number 3, definition about denunciation and connotation. Denunciation is the objective of the words, the meaning of the words, and connotation is therefore not explicit the words of the meaning of the words, but the rather the meaning that meaning implicit implies. The word implies. Denunciation and connotation are tools used by writers to convey the literal and figurative of a works in literature. Differences connotation and denunciation. Connotation and denunciation are opposite concept. Denunciation is the work's literal meaning, whereas the connotation is the implicit meaning. And number 4, I will explain about what definition about imagery. Imagery means to use figurative language to represent object, action, and idea in such a way that applies to our physical sense. And the function of imagery in literature is generative of vibrant and graphic presentation of a scan that applies to as many of the reader's sense as possible. And number 5, I will explain about structure of language. All language have underlying structural rules that make meaningful communication as possible. The 5 components of language are phonemes, morpheme, lexeme, syntax, and context. And phoneme is the smallest unit of sound in language, and morpheme is the smallest unit of language. And number 3, lexeme the minimal of unit of language, which, and syntax is the grammatical structure of sentence. And the last, context means circumstances, a background of even idea or statement. Okay, I think enough about my material, and next material will be explained by Dea Ayu.
Okay, I will continue the explanation from Lela Kamalinda. Definition of syntax. Syntax is the arrangement of words into a sentence that make sentences in a given language. Syntax also refers to the rules and principles that govern sentence structure in language. How words and phrases might be joined. Syntax, therefore, is not a strictly literary device, but instead is part of every answer and written line, and even the majority of talk. Common example of syntax. As stated above in the definition of syntax, every proper grammatical sentence or utterance is an example of syntax. Here are more examples of how syntax governs English. Agreement. She is a person versus I'm a person. Case. He took me to the restaurant versus I to the restaurant. Reflex pronouns. I bought myself a new shirt versus I bought a new shirt. Word order. We ate fish for dinner versus for dinner ate we fish. G. Definition of rhythm. The word rhythm is derived from rhythms autograph, which means measure motion. Rhythm is a literary device that demonstrates the long and short patterns through stressed and unstressed syllables, particular in verb form. Types of rhythm. English poetry makes use of 5 important rhythms. The rhythms are of different patterns of stressed and unstressed syllables. Each unit of these types is called part. Here are the 5 types of rhythm. 1. Long. 2. Throttle. 3. Spawn. 5. Nestle. 6. Anapes. Definition figure of speech. A figure of speech is a pair of words having different meanings than its literal meanings. It conveys meaning by identifying or comparing one thing to another. Types of figures of speech. There are many types of figures of speech. Here are a few of them with detailed description. Oke, telah Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
The conclusion of our material is the language style is used by someone to express those that can reflect the author's soul and personality. Expression style of language that requires the user own effects in the order create an imaginative effects for the listener. Okay, I think that's all about our presentation. If you have question, we open 2 session question. 1 session we open 2 question. Okay, I think enough and thank you and bye bye.